So let's start off with North America and talking about Cloud9, undefeated, the only ones. Ian, what do you got for me?
All right, so I got to make Blake proud whenever he listens to this. Blake, whenever you do listen to this, if you do listen to this.
He won't. But pretend like
he will not.
Well, that's unfortunate. I'll just take his place then as the resident C9 fan for this episode. All right, so jumping right in then. Versus Immortals, they looked really, really clean. Like, both these games were, like, C9, super methodical, super controlled. Played every stage of the game just absolutely fantastic. They didn't look weak in either of the games. Both of them were, like, spot on. CLG was a different story, though. Game 1, C9 did look really good. And then Game 2, they faltered a little bit. They fell behind. Jensen picked Azir again and didn't look super good on it. It was like, albeit the rest of his team wasn't doing fantastic, but he wasn't really carrying, and he kind of got behind in the lane. So I don't know if his Azir pick is just not super strong, or if it just hasn't really shown itself yet.
I will definitely point out that, typically speaking, since the nerfs, Azir shouldn't really be winning the lane anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's true. That's like completely true. Yeah. Anyways, they fell behind Game 3, and CLG is kind of methodically closed them out. It was very C9 never looked like they really had a huge chance in that game. And then Game 3 was the game of this series. God, this game was intense. Impact basically hard carried the last like 15 minutes of the game playing Shin. C9 played this comp with extremely low wave clear. And so what they did to make it so that CLG wasn't constantly pushing their lanes and sieging them was they always sent Impact on Shin into a side lane. And he was always split, which forced CLG to always send someone to match him, meaning they couldn't fully siege a lane with C9. And Impact ended up buying a Zizirot, and he took like I think it was like a total of like 3 inhibs, top twice and bought once with it or something. And C9 was able to just like pressure Baron and bait out CLG to come to them, and like just they outplayed CLG in the macro game. Their macro game 3 was like incredibly well played. So C9 looking really, really strong. Their macro game is honestly a lot better than their early game, I think, because what they've kind of shown is like they'll fall behind a little bit early game, and they'll bring it back in the mid-late game because their shot calling is like really on point. So I feel like where they falter a little bit is if they get too far behind early and they can't make those the shot calling work. So if there's one thing C9 has to work on, I think it'll definitely be the early game. But other than that, this team looks incredibly good.
Yeah, and I think that kind of it's reminiscent of what made Cloud9 successful when Hai was still shot calling in the roster. You know, Hai is a really good player, and he is a very good shot caller. But to apply that team wide and have that be a hallmark of your whole identity is something that comes from an entire organizational standpoint. And it's good to see that is still translating over into this new squad with all of the different times that it's changed. I think they just need some more time to gel, and they're just going to get better. And luckily in North America, we still have a system where they're going to get to play all these different teams and really continue to be successful. We're going to talk a little bit more about Cloud9 towards the tail end of this because, you know, at this point, they're the only undefeated team. And we kind of have to start asking ourselves the questions, you know, yeah, we're only 2 weeks deep, but what team do we think will topple Cloud9? And that's a question we're going to ask
I thought for
towards
sure
the end here.
You were going to go into how likely is Cloud9 to win Worlds. But
no.
You definitely cut it down a lot more than
I felt it on the horizon too. I was like, is he about to make Worlds predictions?
No.
Super.
Do you like they said on the broadcast?
I really wanted you to go for it.
We jump to conclusions. And we make extreme
if we don't jump to conclusions, we never get to actually feel like we're going to do anything.
But I do want to highlight really quick just Impact's genius in the way he played with that ZZ Rock roll, because it wasn't just that he was putting it in lanes that were pushed with inhibs open. It was the lanes that CLG needed to have pushed for them to take major objectives like Bear in order to push down and grab C9's inhibitors.
Yeah.
Whenever C9 lost a team fight, and it happened more frequently in that game than it should have, in my opinion, they could never really capitalize because the ZZ Rot always kept the lanes they needed pushed near their base. And that was just Impact, personally, I think, just great decision making and understanding the flow of the game and what C9 had to do to win the game, and understanding CLG's win conditions as well, and making sure to negate those.
Yeah, he like whenever C9 was baiting around Baron, he was in the bot lane pushing. Whenever they were at Elder Drag, he was in the top lane pushing. Always taking that pressure off away from C9's group, and taking it upon himself. But they lost a lot of team fights that they shouldn't have. Sneaky actually got caught out a lot game 3, where I feel like he really shouldn't have gotten caught out, like blatantly mispositioned.
I want to say that, I mean, despite the fact that at the end of the day, C9 did win that game, and it was largely based upon Impact making some incredible macro and just map decisions. CLG's macro play during the whole thing really gave C9 a run for the money, and the fact that they had to essentially rely on Impact to really be making these sort of risky plays by delaying teleports, delaying his ult for as long as possible in order to get the key objectives was like, it was nail biting. It was riding the edge as best as they possibly could, because CLG did show up this entire series, and especially game 3 and 2.
Yeah, we saw a glimpse of the old